Hey, your friend or friends aren't necessarily friendly to your plumbing business. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the morning workout. That's right, we're up before the sun to get it done, literally. The sun's just now rising here in beautiful Southwest Florida. It's gonna be another beautiful day. We were out yesterday with some friends, boating. Had a great day out on the boat yesterday. You know, it's amazing how much, that kind of sun and fun really aren't doing anything, but it wears you out. That was a good time here. Like, I felt it this morning in my morning workout here. It was a leg day. And of course, legs always kind of get me anyways. It's kind of my thing, but hey, no, I love it. I I tell myself I love doing legs. But honestly, was feeling a little wore out this morning. But you got to get it done. Movement is life. Got to keep moving. All right, hey, I said it. Hey, your friend, your best buddy, or your friends in total, hey, aren't necessarily very friendly to your plumbing business. In fact, in most cases, they are not. In my over 40 years of being in the plumbing industry and working with it and seeing different plumbing businesses and even businesses in general, and of course, my own plumbing business, and then now having worked with hundreds of other plumbing businesses, you know, it's not uncommon. You know, we start our business, plumbing business, you know, with a buddy. You know, hey, let's instead of making that guy all the money, hey, let's do our own thing. And so we get in plumbing business. We go into business, which is what that is. We're not thinking that way though, but we think, hey, why don't we just, you know, we'll both go after it together, you know, with a buddy. And all my years, I've never seen that work out. Okay, work out to where you actually become successful. Now, I mean, you can do the job and, you know, you're making a living, but I'm talking about, you know, having a thriving, self-sustaining, and very profitable plumbing business and to create the freedom lifestyle for yourself. You know, where you're actually creating wealth, both financial wealth and time wealth. Never seen it happen. And the problem is that one of you is still thinking like a plumber. One of you is just still a cog in the matrix, in that mindset. And so, you know, it comes out in different ways where, you know, one of you wants to go after it and do things and, you know, figure, you know, inside, you know, it ain't just about plumbing. Okay, there's something that you don't know. And so, you know, got to figure this out. And the other is just, hey, man, we're making good money. I go fishing and I can, you know, do my thing or whatever. And you like doing that. And that just doesn't work out. The business just doesn't work out that way. You know, and if the business does start making some decent money, money always comes between people. It's always about the money. You know, that's why we see, you know, with our plumbing power couples, with husbands and wives, you know, it's both your money, okay? And so it works out, and both of you are fighting for the same kingdom. But when it comes down to it with your buddy, well, I grew up with this is a guy, I don't care. You know, I grew up with a guy, I've known him since second grade. In fact, that's the worst of all, okay? It all comes down to, you know, that we're fighting for our own kingdoms, our own, you know, and we want the money ourselves. So then the money gets in the way. Well, you need to make this much and that much. Well, you didn't pull your weight on this and that and all that. So all that happens. It happens every single time. It's never worked out in my 40 years of being in the plumbing industry. You know, and if you happen to be the times that it's still, partnerships just don't work out in that way unless, well, let me finish my thought here. Even in partnerships where you turn out to be both alpha. You know, we don't have, you know, an alpha and, you know, someone that's just happy to be a cog in the matrix or still, you know, walking through life stupid. Okay. Even if they're two alphas, and we see that like with, you know, like the Elon Musks, and you know, he started out, and, you know, he did PayPal with the buddy. I forget the guy's name or whatever. He's now doing OpenAI and all that kind of stuff. Well, they got going here, but they're both alphas, okay? And two alphas just don't work out either in one business. Excuse me. Going after it, you know, it's the whole. There's only just one cock in the hen house, okay? Two cocks don't work out. all right. And business is a big hen house. So you got two alphas, you got two cocks going after it. It just doesn't work out. Like you saw that, you got a glimpse of that when you saw Trump and Elon. You know, for solving the one problem and going after it, you know, you got two alphas going after and getting things done. You know, something big in the government, so entrenched. You know, the whole Doge thing and all that. But you know, they had the falling out. I guarantee you that they're falling out is they're just two alphas. They have their two ways of going after it. You know, the two billionaires, and you can only be together so long. We're working together like that so long. It just doesn't work out. Okay, it's just how things are. Now, as I was going to say, unless there are the relationships and, you know, partnerships that are created and designed from the very beginning, where they know what the outcome is, they know exactly what they're going to do with the money, what they're doing with the time, what the focus is, everything's laid out from the very beginning. And that might have been part of the kind of thing that happened with Trump and Elon. You know, they talked about they had the 6-month window, you know, that kind of a thing. There's probably some of that happening. So there's things were laid out, and that has to be done when you got, you know, again, you got two cocks in the hen house. Okay, everything has to be laid out exactly what the expectations are, what the roles are. Okay, for it to work, but or it doesn't work out. Okay, but those are situations where it is just, you know, we are just going after the money. Okay, and again, there's business relationships that are designed that way. You know, quite frankly, here in the MDP world, we're working on something right now. I got some exciting things coming up coming down the track here, rather, and one's the business relationship, and I hope to kind of get it resolved, or not resolved, but kind of finish out all these things this week, because it is a business. It's a business relationship where we're both benefiting, and we're both alphas. Both groups are alphas. But so everything has to be, you know, every I has to be dotted, every T has to be crossed. We have to know exactly where the money's going, what are the expectations, all those kinds of things for it to run, not only just run smoothly, but where the emotions and everything don't get in the way. Okay, the alphas, okay, the personalities, everything don't get in the way. Okay, which is what happens in a lot. Okay, so it's just, if you're in business, I've just never seen it happen, and it's even worse in families. Okay, we get it. You know, sadly, we see, you know, where the father started the plumbing business, and now he wants to hand it down to your kids. That's why we say you ain't going to hand it down to your kids. It just doesn't work out that way. But maybe the son, you know, we've seen the son or two, or you get into plumbing, and the daughter's there too, and it's just one of the sons just winds up still being a plumber mindset. But it's family, so that pulls and gets. It's just so hard to be successful in that environment. You know, to win it with that kind of environment. And quite frankly, I've just never seen it successful. Again, in 40 years, okay? It's just, there's just something there. Unless, you know, I've seen it outside in other business relationships, but again, all the expectations, all the roles, where all the money's gonna go, when there's extra money, what can we do with the money, what percentage is so-and-so's, what percent, you know, how we divvying things up, what's the exit. Okay, all that thing is determined. Excuse me. Got a little cold or something that's hit me too. That's probably why I felt a little bit low this morning as well. But all those things are figured up beforehand. Okay, and that brings me to the next point with the friends. Look, if you're having your plumbing business, look, you're creating something from nothing. You're creating business. You're going outside the matrix, outside the machine. You're creating your own machine. And everyone around us, okay, has been conditioned, schooled, positioned just to be in line, okay? And that includes your friends. And so if you ever feel, you know, if you have a plumbing business and you truly get this concept that you're creating a business and something different, not just a job that you own, that's a different thinking. That's a different way of thinking than what your friends that you may have been hanging around with. So they've been great. The guys you grew up with at school, you know, and partying with and watching the games with, they may not be the best to be around anymore. I mean, it's just how it is. We lose, you know, you'll find that the most successful don't have well, first of all, they don't have the kind of hangout friends because you're unique, okay? And they certainly don't have the friends they had that they grew up with, because most people aren't looking to create something and to do something different than just what the Matrix, has conditioned them to do. Okay, so you've heard the saying. You may or may not heard the saying that we're the average of the 5 people that we hang around, and that is so true. And so it's so important about who you be around. So I'm not saying that they're bad people, okay? But if their motivation is, oh, it's Monday, thank God it's hump day, it's hump day, or thank God it's Friday, and now we're gonna, just watch TV and hang out in the evenings or all weekend long, and it's whatever the herd are doing, okay? That's not going to work for you when you're trying to create this asset that's going to create financial freedom for you and your family, your kingdom, all right, and create the freedom lifestyle for you, all right. So you got to take a look at who you're hanging around. The same thing goes with family, okay, guys. It's the same with family. Now with family, I'm not saying that you no longer see them, but you may limit the amount of time with you. So if you have parents that are just your dad is just, as with my dad never understood. My dad was a mechanic. He was just part of the Matrix. Of course, had dreams. Our parents have dreams, but they just aren't going to do anything about it. That's for other people. Okay? And my dad was not supportive. In fact, he was, it was always the negative. Well, this is going to happen. The economy. Why do you do this? Don't stick your head up. All that kind of stuff. That's how most people think. In fact, my father only asked me one time, and it's been some years after I got Attaboy, my plumbing company was successful, and we're living in a fine home and doing stuff and cars and whatever. My dad let down his guard just once, and he asked me, how'd you learn this stuff? That's the only positive kind of proud statement, just out of asking me that. That was his way of, not his way, but he never said he was proud. He never, because he couldn't relate to it. All right, but that was the only time we kind of, how would you learn to do this? And the learning is just by living, pushing forward, making mistakes. Okay, but I didn't hang around my dad, and my mother, and stuff all the time, because it's just not supportive. The same with I have a sister and family, when Thanksgivings and Christmases and those kinds of things, when we get together for the dinners, how you do, family and that, we didn't talk about these kinds of things because they just didn't understand, and they wouldn't be supportive. And if anything, and they're supportive, even if they do love you or whatever, they bring up the fears, so they don't want you to, they don't want you to be hurt, and really they're placing themselves in those positions, right? So it's so important about who you hang around and who you give your time to. And so ultimately you need to be in an environment around with others who are just like you, that are pushing forward, okay? They're creating something from nothing, creating an economy, okay? You need to be hanging around others. So that, and I'm not talking about these plumbing groups, okay, guys? If you're a plumber, don't get out of the plumbing hacks and all that. That's exactly what those are. Those are hacks, okay? All those groups do nothing for you, okay? You're no longer a plumber, okay? You need to be around business-minded people, okay? So whether it's a local business group, okay, which is what I did eventually, a CEO group, or like now, there wasn't anything like what I have like right now, like my school group. Okay, be around others. Join my free school group, milliondollarplumber.com/school, SKOOL. And there's trainings there for you, but more importantly, it's the community. So you're around other business owners, plumbing business owners, who are not your competition, by the way. Okay, so you may be hanging out with other plumbing business owners in your area, but they're your competition. You're not going to share the secret sauce. It's just friendly, which is fine. But you're really not going to learn anything there, truly, okay? But be around others who are where you're at, and they're going through the same kind of struggles. And there's others there that are way down the road, you know. We have, with MDP, we have a retreat coming up next week. And so we'll have, you know, people that are in our academy, and they're going to be there, and we're going to spend, you know, some time together here in Florida, and mainly, you know, there'll be some classes, a morning class or whatever, but it's mainly time to, you know, hang out at the pool, have some adult beverages, talking business and life. Well, there's going to be people there that are just starting out in MDP, okay, and starting out with their, you know, in their journey of creating their business. And there's others there. In fact, one of the speakers I'm having is one that was there, you know, they were part of MDP 5 years ago, came in broke, just him in a truck, and you know, on the brink of bankruptcy and divorce, you know, the struggles that creates. And his past, you know, last year he sold for $30 million. So he's going to share, they're going to share their story, okay? So we have those and others in between, okay, all together here that are supporting one another. It's just a powerful time. It's just a powerful time for you, for you to be around others who are like you, okay? Looking at building a thriving, self-sustaining, very profitable plumbing business. So there you go, okay? Take a look at who you're hanging around, okay? Your buddy that you went to school with, you know, since 2nd grade. Hey, you have good memories and all that, but it may not be the best person to be hanging around any longer. All right, give it some thought. Okay, well, there you go. There's my 2 cents on this morning workout. Look like the sun has just poked over horizon there. It's bright. All right, you go seize your day. I'm gonna go seize mine. Let's get out there. Let's be dangerous. As always, come like a champion.